human body is a very complex network of different cells, which all play different roles in helping the body survive. The cells make up tissues, which then make up organs, which then make up organ systems. And when you have enough organ systems, you can lead to creating an organism.
The cells are the basic units of life. They are born and then they grow into different types of cells, such as blood or muscle cells. There are tissues which are made up of the same types of cells, but there are 4 main types of tissue in humans. They are epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous. Epithelial tissue is the one on the outside, such as skin. Connective tissue is the one that join parts of bodies. It produces collagen and protein, which gives tissue strength and shape.
The nervous tissue, take a guess. It transports impulses to the nerve so that you can move, and muscle tissue helps the bones move by supporting them.
Then, groups of tissues which perform a similar function form organs.
And you guessed it, more organs which perform similar functions, they are part of an organ system. The biggest thing ever so that you do not die, because no one wants to die, is to maintain homeostasis, which is to keep a balanced state of physical and chemical balancedness, even if the environment changes. There are many ways that your body can maintain homeostasis, most of them being through the systems that regulate a lot of stuff. The biggest one is feedback inhibition, is when a stimulus creates a different feedback than the original stimulus. One of the main organs in the organism is the liver. The liver converts all the bad toxins into less toxic ones.
The excretory system's job is to excrete toxic waste, ammonia being the worst of this. This is one of the ways that the body maintains homeostasis, which is vitally important. The organs of the system consist of the skin, the lungs, and the kidneys.
Sweat contains salt and minor amounts of urea. No, that's not my name. Lungs let out CO2. The liver converts nitrogen into less toxic waste. It travels to the kidneys and gets filtered, then leaves the body. The excess waste and urea are the contents of urine. Ureters transport urine to the bladder.
Kidneys are like the filters of the body. They contain millions of nephrons which purify the blood in 2 processes. First is filtration, which takes place in the glomerulus, which is a network of capillaries. A result of filtration is the excretion of water, urea, glucose, salts, amino acids, and vitamins. The second part is urine excretion. There is a collecting duct, which carries urine, and the duct flows to the kidneys and is stored there until it can be excreted in the form of urine and solid waste.
The kidneys are important because they maintain homeostasis in many different ways. They contribute to the direct composition of blood, which is also influenced by the endocrine system. If you eat salty foods, the kidneys will return less salt and will be more absorbed into your blood. Same with any other scenarios. The releasing of hormones will also affect the kidney function. If you are dehydrated, then ADH will tell kidneys to absorb more water and excrete less urine, and vice versa. The color of urine determines if you are getting enough water or not.
The blood vessels are like highways, which take all the nutrients everywhere. There are 3 main ones, and they are arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries take purified blood away from the heart and carry it to the rest of the body with a thick elastic wall. The arteries carry the blood from the heart to the tissues of the body.
The connective tissue helps connect the arteriole so that it can deliver blood to the capillaries. All except the pulmonary arteries carry oxygen, rich blood. When the cardiac muscles contract, it is very hard and strong to ensure that the blood goes in the right direction. The veins take the blood to the heart.
Many veins are located in near the skeletal muscles. The venules are formed when they attach to the arterioles from the capillaries. The smooth muscle regulate the diameter of the arteries, but there is only a thin layer in the veins. The endothelium lines the walls of the blood vessels.
The lymphatic system is a network of lymph nodes, vessels, organs that collect the lymph that leaves capillary and screens it for microorganisms and returns it back to the circulatory system. The capillaries push the filtrate into the lymph vessels. It acts as a filter, getting all of the bad stuff out and pushes the good stuff back into the circulatory system.
More pressure comes from the skeletal muscles to push the fluid into larger and larger ducts. When there is an injury blocking the vessel, it is called an edema because swelling takes place.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
The nervous system uses information from the inside and outside environment to create responses. Impulses are electrical signals that travel through nerve cells or neurons. Those neurons are a part of the peripheral nervous system.
The central nervous system is formed by the brain and the spinal cord. There are 3 types of neurons: sensory, motor, and interneurons. Sensory take impulses from organs to the brain or spinal cord to the central nervous system. Neurons have some major structures in common, like cell bodies, dendrites, or axons.
To send impulses, there are proteins in the cell membranes that have neurons that receive currents. The charge is formed by a balance of potassium and sodium ions in the cell. There is a negative charge caused by the potassium ions, and the potassium channeled by more potassium ions than sodium.
An action potential is created when a large stimulus changes the original charge of the resting neuron to change, which generates a nerve impulse. The smallest stimulus to produce an action potential is the threshold stimulus. All in all, the nerve impulses are created when a change of neuron charges are made. The charge then travels down to the axon with the current. CNS, which consists of the brain and spinal cord and is combined in the skull and vertebrae. So the brain has a cerebrum, cerebellum, and brainstem, which regions of the brain are in control of specific abilities from different parts of the body. Whereas the spinal cord contains the neurons that came and and exit the brain. Spinal cord contains neurons that come and exit the brain. Bridges gap between the brain and the rest of the body.
The skeletal system supports and shapes the body. It protects organs, helps with movement, and is even the site for the creation of blood cells, and it even contains minerals. The bones store minerals like calcium salts.
The axial skeleton is made up from the skull, vertebral column, and the rib cage, which support the central part of the body. The limb, pelvis, and shoulder bones make up the appendicular skeleton. Bones are essentially built from tissues made up of groups of cells and protein fibers, which is placed around deposits of calcium salts.
They are also surrounded by perosteum, connective tissues. Below the perosteum is a layer of compact bone which contain nerves and blood vessels in Haversian canals.
Even deeper into the bone is a spongy bone. The bone cavities contain yellow bone marrow and red marrow. Yellow marrow is made up of fatty cells, and red marrow is made up of stem cells that produce blood cells.
The ends of the bones are generally bigger and thicker to support the thinner parts of the bone.
Joints meet bones and are made of tissues that hold them together. There are 3 types of joints: immovable, movable, and slightly movable.
Immovable joints have no movement allowed. And at an immovable joint, the bones are tightly interlocked and intertwined and grow to be merged.
Slightly movable joints allow slight movements. The bones are generally separated from one another.
Movable joints allow movements in 2 directions. They're connected by adjacent surfaces on the bones.
Muscles help the skeleton move, as we already know. There are 3 types of muscle tissue: skeletal, smooth, and cardiac.
Smooth muscles are found on digestive organs, amongst others in veins. Skeletal are attached to bones in the skeleton, and cardiac appear on the heart.
Skeletal muscles help us voluntarily move. They have a strap-like appearance and are crossed with bands over it, known as striation. As we have covered, the CNS creates movement in the skeletal muscles. They vary in length and generally have a lot of nuclei. They are also known as muscle fibers.
Smooth muscles take their name from the fact that they look smooth. Smooth muscles are located in the walls of blood vessels and some of the body's major organs. They are typically moved involuntarily and have a single nucleus. They don't depend entirely on the nervous system to move.
The cardiac muscle is only found in the heart. It has one or two nuclei, and it's not under the direct control of the nervous system either.
To move, muscles shorten and lengthen, or contract. Skeletal muscles have sarcomeres that contain proteins that, when interact, help muscles to create force. The integumentary system is composed of skin, hair, and nails.
Its job is to be a barricade against injuries or infections, and it can remove waste or create vitamin D, and even maintains body temperature.
There are two layers to the skin, the epidermis and dermis. Beneath the dermis is a layer of fat called the hypodermis, and tissues that protect the body from outside temperatures.
Sensory nerves detect temperature or pain and transport that into the nervous system. The blood vessels narrow in order to help conserve heat. Fat in the skin conserves body heat. Sebaceous glands release oils to keep the skin flexible, and the hair follicles help the hair grow.
The endocrine system is important in producing hormones. There are different glands that release hormones that can enter the blood and influence what cells and tissues or organs do. There are ducts that release sweat, tears, and even some enzymes out of the body or into the digestive system. There are two types of hormones, steroid and non-steroid. Steroid hormones are lipids, so they can cross cell membranes with ease. When they enter the nucleus, they can change the way gene expression occurs in a cell. Non-steroid hormones cannot pass through the cell membrane. They bind to the receptors on the membrane and release substances that causes changes in the cell's activities. The endocrine system is controlled completely by feedback inhibition, and the balance of water can control how the endocrine system controls homeostasis. The hypothalamus contains cells that monitor blood water content, so you know when you're dehydrated.
At puberty, the hypothalamus signals the pituitary to secrete two types of hormones, luteinizing and follicle-stimulating hormones. LH orders testes to create testosterone, and the FSH causes sperm to form. When puberty is over, the reproductive system is complete and functional, or able to release sperm.
The testes are inside the scrotum, which is shown on the outside of the human body. Inside the testes, cells in the seminiferous tubules go through meiosis to create haploids of the nuclei. The sperm then mature and are stored in the epididymis.
The sperm has a head made of condensed nucleus and a cap at the tip containing enzymes for fertilization, a mid-part made of energy-releasing mitochondria, and a flagellum that moves the cell.
Some sperms are transported inside tubules called vas deferens that empty in the urethra.
The reproductive tract glands then produce fluid that is full of nutrients. This fluid, seminal fluid, keeps the sperm healthy and maintained while also protecting them from the environment, especially the female reproductive tract.
Sperm plus seminal fluid equals semen. Sperm plus seminal fluid equals semen.
Puberty causes the same result in females as it does in males. The only difference is that FSH causes cells in the ovaries to produce estrogens and egg cells.
The function of the female reproductive system is to assemble an ova, or an egg, or egg cells, to prepare the body for an embryo.
During puberty, the ovary has primary follicles that surround an egg, which help the egg develop to go into the reproductive tract to be fertilized by a sperm. Around once a month, the ovary delivers an egg into the uterus, which is called the menstrual cycle.
The main two systems involved in the menstrual cycle are the reproductive and the endocrine. Estrogens stimulate the uterus to form new vessels for the fertilized egg to come. When the egg isn't fertilized, it is released. These blood vessels and the lining of the uterus is discharged after breaking down.
When an egg is fertilized, the development of an embryo begins. The egg is officially attached to the uterus wall. Tissues from both the embryo and the mother create the placenta.